Welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really thought-provoking stuff to get into today.
Mm.
Articles, reports, all about the current state of AI.
Yeah, it's a fascinating time for AI, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And the question we're going to be exploring today is a big one. Is AI progress slowing down? I mean, is that really possible?
It's certainly a question a lot of people are asking these days.
Yeah. I mean, look at what we've got here. Pieces from OpenAI, Google, even some really insightful commentary from folks who've been on the front lines of AI research for years. Feels like we're at a real turning point. So let's dive in, shall we?
Let's do it. I'm really curious to see what we can uncover.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about OpenAI's latest and greatest, Orion.
Right. And as you know, well, it's not GPT-5. Not yet, anyway.
Nope, not GPT-5. But there's this YouTube video, the AI Daily Brief, and they're suggesting that while Orion is definitely more powerful than GPT-4.
The improvements aren't quite as dramatic as what we've seen in the past.
Exactly. It's almost like, well, they even say that in some areas, like coding, it might not even be consistently better than GPT-4.
That's certainly gotten people talking.
Right. I mean, for the longest time, it felt like the motto was bigger is better when it came to AI. Just throw more data, more computing power at it, and boom, problem solved. But now...
Now people are starting to wonder if we're hitting some kind of limit with that approach.
Yeah, and it's not just OpenAI, right? The video goes on to talk about how Google's running into similar issues with their Gemini model.
Exactly. So it's starting to look like it could be an industry-wide trend, not just a one-off.
Okay, so if just adding more data and compute isn't the answer, then what is? There's all this talk about alternative approaches like OpenAI's reasoning pathway. They're even testing it out with a model called O1, I think it is.
Yeah, O1. It's really fascinating. Instead of just focusing on that initial training phase, they're looking at ways to improve the model's reasoning capabilities, after training.
So it's like almost like teaching the AI how to think more critically, not just absorb more information.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. And they're exploring a few different methods. One involves using synthetic data, so data that's actually generated by other AI models.
Whoa. So AI creating data for other AI to learn from, that's trippy.
It is, but it seems to be working.
Okay, and then there's this inference thing I keep seeing.
Mm-hmm.
The video even had this crazy example about a poker playing AI.
Ah, yes. They gave it 20 seconds to just think, and it got a performance boost equivalent to scaling the model up 100,000 times.
100,000.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild, right? Like maybe we've been focusing on the wrong thing all along. Maybe it's not about bigger models, but smarter ones.
It certainly challenges our assumptions, that's for sure.
So, okay, all this is super interesting, but let's step back for a second.
Yeah.
What does this all mean for the average person? Will this potential shift in how AI is developed actually impact how we use AI in our daily lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The way I see it, even if the rate of improvement in raw performance slows down, the applications for AI are still exploding.
Okay, so just because these models might not be getting exponentially bigger and better doesn't mean that AI progress is grinding to a halt.
Precisely. Think about how we use AI now compared to just a few years ago. It's come a long way. We're just entering a new phase, perhaps. One that's less about brute force and more about, strategy and application.
So it's like we need to get smarter about how we develop and utilize AI. We can't just expect bigger models to magically solve every problem.
Right. But I have a feeling not everyone sees it that way.
Yeah, there's definitely some debate brewing, right? Some people are worried this is a sign AI progress is genuinely slowing down, maybe even hitting a fundamental limit.
Others argue that this is just a natural progression, We're moving away from simple scaling toward more sophisticated approaches, like this whole reasoning and inference thing we've been talking about.
It's like we've been cruising down this bigger is better highway for a while, and now we're hitting a fork in the road. Some folks want to stay the course, but others see these intriguing new paths branching off.
Great analogy. And honestly, both sides have valid points. It's still early days, so it's hard to say for sure which path will lead to the biggest breakthroughs in the long run. But hey, the fact that we're even having this conversation is pretty amazing. It just goes to show how far AI has come.
Yeah.
And the potential it still has.
Yeah, I'm already starting to rethink some of my own assumptions about where this whole field is headed.
It's an exciting time, that's for sure. I mean, who knows what the future holds?
All right, so that's a great overview of where things stand right now. But in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to really dig into those alternative approaches, especially that whole reasoning pathway idea.
We'll get into the nitty-gritty, look at some of the specific techniques they're using to boost AI's reasoning capabilities.
Stay tuned, folks, because Things are about to get even more interesting. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're picking up right where we left off, exploring this whole idea of AI getting smarter, not just bigger, this reasoning pathway. It's really got me thinking.
Yeah, it's a pretty hot topic in AI research these days.
One of the things we touched on was synthetic data.
Yeah.
As these AI models get more complex, they need tons of data to learn, right?
Right. And we're starting to hit a point where we might not have enough real-world data to keep feeding them.
So that's where synthetic data comes in.
Exactly. It's like,
Mm.
instead of relying solely on information gathered from the real world, we're using AI to create new data that mirrors those real-world complexities.
So it's like instead of showing an AI millions of pictures of cats to teach it what a cat is, you can have another AI generate all these unique cat images.
Yep, and they still capture all those essential characteristics.
Whoa. AI creating data for other AI to learn from. It's like AI inception or something.
Kind of, yeah. And the crazy thing is, it seems to be working. The early results are pretty promising.
That's incredible. But wouldn't there be a risk of, like, bias creeping in?
Yeah.
You know, if the AI that's generating the data has its own biases, wouldn't that get passed on to the AI that's learning from it?
That's a great point, and it's something researchers are definitely aware of. One strategy is to use a variety of AI models to generate the synthetic data. That way, you're not relying on a single model's perspective.
So it's like getting a more balanced viewpoint.
Exactly. You don't want to end up with a skewed data set.
Hmm.
Okay, but moving on. We also talked about inference optimization. Remember that poker playing AI?
Oh, yeah, the one where they gave it like 20 seconds to think, and its
20
performance jumped like crazy. Like, it was the same as scaling the model up thousands of times.
100,000 times to be exact.
It just shows you, right? Maybe it's not all about just raw power. Maybe optimizing the reasoning process, actually giving the AI time to think strategically, is what really matters.
That's the idea behind inference optimization. Instead of just reacting based on its training, the AI gets to, well, it's like it gets to analyze the situation, consider different options, just like a human would.
So it's not just about how much information AI has access to, it's how well it can use that information to solve problems.
Right. It's like the difference between having a huge library and knowing how to find the right book at the right time.
And this is what sets this new wave of AI apart, this focus on, like, actual reasoning and problem solving.
Exactly. Some experts believe this focus on reasoning and inference could lead to even bigger breakthroughs than just building bigger models. It's like we're not just trying to create an artificial brain that stores information. We're trying to create an artificial mind that can actually think.
It's like almost philosophical, right?
Right.
It makes you wonder what it really means to think, to reason, to make decisions.
Deep stuff.
Okay, so how do they actually do it? How do they optimize this whole inference process? Give AI the ability to think better.
There are a few different approaches. Some researchers are trying to break down complex problems into smaller, more manageable steps, so the AI can tackle them more systematically.
Makes sense.
Others are working on improving the AI's ability to filter out irrelevant information, so it can focus on the most crucial data for a given task.
So it's almost like teaching the AI to be more discerning, like pick and choose what's important.
Exactly. It's all about being more strategic, more efficient.
So it's not just about creating artificial intelligence anymore. It's about creating artificial minds capable of genuine thought and reasoning.
Yeah. It's a pretty profound shift in perspective.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It's been quite a journey, exploring this this possible shift in AI development. Remember at the beginning we were asking if AI progress was slowing down,
Yeah, it seemed like a real possibility.
but then we started digging into all these new approaches, and now it feels like we're not slowing down, we're just changing direction.
Yeah, we're shifting gears.
Exactly. And to be honest, I'm actually feeling pretty optimistic. At first I was a little, I don't know, uneasy about the idea that progress might be slowing down. But now seeing all this innovation, it's like, whoa, we're just getting started.
I don't think that's a great way to look at it.
So looking back at everything we've talked about, what do you think is the biggest takeaway for someone trying to understand the future of AI? What should people really be paying attention to?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the AI story is far from over. It's evolving, it's changing, and yeah, there are challenges, but there's also so much potential.
So just because we might be reaching the limits of,
Yeah.
like, the bigger is better approach?
Doesn't mean progress is stopping. It just means we need to be smarter about how we move forward.